Yeah, I think it's, subhanAllah, man, like that thing about like scrolling pictures and like, is this person still alive? Is this person still alive? Like, this genocide is unfolding on everyone's screen. And so when someone who's been reporting from the ground suddenly stops reporting for a few days, everyone's thinking, have they been martyred? And it almost like it takes me on a personal level to like Jannah, where people are asking about each other, right? Where you're kind of looking around like, hey, where's this person? Where's this person? Like, and subhanAllah, you wonder, you know, hopefully Allah Azza wa Jalla gives us that opportunity to ask about these names and to go find these people in Jannah and to rejoice with them once again in the night time. That's the hope, right? That's the shahada part, that martyrdom. People who reduce Islam to a death cult don't understand that we just believe in life in a way that they just cannot grasp. And the people of Gaza have that belief more than anything else. You kind of talk about that, like that concept of like, hey, we know we're going to die, but we know that there's something after death. Like, how did you kind of experience that for yourself and for other people when you were there?
I mean, the first day that I showed up to Nasser Hospital, it reminds me of the very first patient that I had seen that had been killed. And it was somebody who had been injured in an airstrike, 22-year-old, 23-year-old. And he was brought in by his mom, his dad, and his siblings. And I remember because I had just shown up, I had put my bags in the room. I was going to be sleeping at the hospital. And I remember because when we walk in, he had lost a pulse. And so they were doing CPR on this person. You know, they were doing chest compressions. And he was on the floor of the emergency department. And I didn't recognize that his family was there to begin with. So I just kind of got on my knees. I was trying to help the doctor. His name is Dr. Majdi, very young, brilliant physician. But subhanAllah, I mean, that was his time. And, you know, he met his maker. And I remember kind of being shocked that it had happened so quickly. First day, I mean, first 5 minutes. And Dr. Majdi gets up and he looks at the guy's father and he said, you know, آخر كلامه, his last words were, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله, أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. And then the dad said, which was very overwhelming for me, but he looked at him and he said, Amana? Like, Amana, those were his last words. Like, that was one of the most comforting things you could say to the father of a martyr, to the father of the shaheed, of his son who had just been killed. He said, Amana, promise me that you're telling the truth. He said those were his last words. He said those were his last words. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he turned around to his siblings and to his wife and he said, you know, like he was comforting them. And then they picked him up in the blanket that they brought him in from their house, and they went to go bury their son. And, you know, right away you start realizing that the people in Gaza, the way that they've perceived everything, they look at that hardship is different. Because I'd have to be honest with myself. Could I have that sort of patience in that moment on the emergency department floor, looking at my son, you know, essentially pass away? Am I going to have that moment to reflect and be able to take comfort? You have to have that belief in the afterlife. I mean, you have to believe there's an akhirah. If you don't, you're not going to be comforted by that's your son's last words.